Chapter 11.11.11.1 More Ice Cream by Sky. Decca turned up at the last minute and Miguel served all of us more ice cream to celebrate. Even though I'd said goodbye more than once, we sat for ages talking about what had happened and how good Minnow and Frank had been and how Blizzard had rescued us from the Desgul. We told everyone about Puff and how kind he was. Also that he'd like to study at Marescimar. Decca's eyes were all teary. "I know Puff," he said. "So good that you met him. We're old mates. I used to give him strings for a big golden guitar he had. He wanted me to teach him how to play. I sent him lots of letters, but after some evil was unleashed upon the Dragon Kingdom, the Red Queen moved her people to Honolulu. At first I was allowed to visit, but after another attack, the dragons used invisibility as a protection, and I lost touch with Puff." "Amazing," I said. "He told me that the person who gave him the letters and the strings was one of his godmother's friends." "That's you, and Puff's mother said that Stella is Puff's godmother, so—" I shook my head in disbelief. "I'm his godmother. I'm Puff's godmother." Decca grinned. "The islands of time," he said, "where the most wonderful things happen." I shook my head and sighed. It was too good. Frank and Ben couldn't stop speed talking. They told everyone how Stella had captured Isla and Filthy and how the time fairies had flown the two evildoers across the islands of time, finally dropping them into the Indigo Sea, for their own good, of course. "We're going to add all of this into our computer game," said Frank. "Decca's going to help us." Ben and Decca nodded. "Decca's one of the best programmers I know," said Blizzard. "The thieves just didn't want any of their students learning how to do it." Frank groaned. "Typical. I can't wait to play the real-time game. We have one in our computer game, but something tells me that the real thing is going to be way better." Blizzard laughed. "Ah," he said, "you'll love it." Jack smiled at me and whispered, "I'll tell you my story one day. Don't be afraid. Everything will work out. And I promise to create an enchanted chair of safety. Angel told me that you'd imagine one. It sounds brilliant." I hugged Jax and said, "Maybe you can find a way to make enchanted places of safety. There might be people who hate chairs. They might prefer a tree house or a forest or a beach." Jax nodded. "I can make all of those places become real in my chairs, but I get what you mean. I could make an enchanted hologram that makes you feel as if you're anywhere in the universe as long as it's safe for you to be there." I beamed at Jax. "Perfect," I said. "I knew you'd know how." Jax gave me another hug. "Be safe," she said. "I know you will be." I turned to Angel, who had placed her hand on my shoulder. "It's time, my dear," she said. I felt a huge wave of peace, as if I was sitting in one of Jax's enchanted chairs. Somehow I knew exactly what to do. Magic was streaming into me from every direction as I easily changed myself into the shape of a sea eagle. I flew high above Moat and let out one long cry before diving directly for her cradle. Everyone says that just before I reached it, I disappeared. Minnow told me later that after I disappeared, the baby opened her eyes, stretched out her arms and splayed her tiny fingers wide. Then she wriggled her little body, closed her eyes and re-entered her baby dream. Being on the inside of that baby, who was me, was incredible. I dreamed that my mother picked me up and nestled me into her arms. She then looked at Angel and said, "Thank you." In my dreams, I often see Angel at that moment. She always flares out her enormous mother-of-pearl wings, which are dusted with the softest rainbows of gold, and smiles a smile that could fill every universe with happiness. And with her eyes, she says to my mother, "You are so very welcome."